Out there in Facebook and YouTube world. Thanks for joining us. My name is Anji, and welcome to T.Skies Digging Deep Discussions. It's a show where we talk with local artists, leaders, and professionals about the topics impacting our community and our culture here in New Mexico. Today we have special guest Lewis Dorsey of the band Diabolyk. Diabolyk. We were doing pronunciation preparations before the show. I have failed. Diabolyk's song
Hermosísimo Lucero.
Darn it, I practiced so hard. Hermosísimo Lucero is currently #1 in northern New Mexico, and they are currently working on their next 2 albums. And I'm really excited about this show because, first of all, I love music. Who doesn't love music? But here in New Mexico, we have such a rich and different culture in so many ways. And we talk a lot about the jewelry and the culture surrounding that, but I'm excited to talk about something that's homegrown New Mexico. So I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and then we'll jump into it.
Okay. Well, I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Been here, born and raised. I've been playing bass for probably since I was a teenager. I was playing when I was a kid. I was playing piano. My mom and dad put me in piano lessons when I was really young, and just kind of kept going from there.
Yeah.
I think a lot of New Mexican musicians, we just kind of jumped from bandwagon to bandwagon, from band to band, finding our gig, and just...
Well, let's not jump ahead of ourselves, because I'm really curious, because you're such a natural musician. I know you can just pick up and play so many different things. What point was it when you were a kid where you were like, this is where my heart is at. Music is what I want to do?
It was pretty early on when my parents put me into music lessons. I was probably maybe 5 years old, playing on one of my brother's toddler pianos.
Yeah.
And just whatever was on PBS, especially like Sesame Street, I would just replay it automatically on the piano.
When you were 5?
When I was 5.
Yeah.
And it would just be like little melodies, not like full concerts or anything. And then somebody in my family, my mom or dad, or even my sister, had caught on that I was able to pick stuff up, and they put me in piano lessons, and then from there it just
blossomed.
It was, yeah, it really does.
That's amazing. You're just born with that gift. That's incredible. Holden, let's go ahead and move that so I can see the comments. Yeah. Thanks everybody for joining us tonight. Hi, Betty.
Hi, Betty.
Oh gosh, it's so awesome to be able to do these Wednesday shows because we get to meet so many cool people.
It's really fun.
Yes, and the people watch this show from all over the world in the country too, so it's really cool that we are able to share a little bit about who we are here in New Mexico and what we're all about. So I guess that leads to the burning question of, what is New Mexico music?
I guess it's really easy to define when you're from New Mexico. It's our music. It's ours. But when we talk about the rich history that we have, and I'm sure you know, throughout the history of New Mexico, there's so much with Spaniard colonization during the 1500s, and just how that affects so many cultures through that period of time in New Mexico. And a lot of the stuff that we play is norteño or norteña music, and it's a lot of northern New Mexican, a lot of old folk songs. Most of the songs that we get radio play on is just old folk songs where we've just taken our own spin to it. So for me, it was the music that I remember listening to on Saturday mornings, and that would be what I learned how to dance to with my mom. It would be on KNW, or right now on KDC. It would just be that kind of feel. And I guess by the ear to best describe it for somebody who's never listened to it, there's times where you can hear polka through it. There's times you can hear some rockabilly through it. There's times you can hear just an old classic piano song, or an old classic just song that you may remember hearing your grandmother sing at some point, and it's those old stories.
Generational.
Yes,
generational knowledge, because I think before we had things like newspapers or Facebook, of course, but you pass down these stories and these knowledge in all sorts of different ways, and I think song was a really important part of that. In Europe, when you look at the Irish, or I'm sure Spain was a lot the same way, and you pass those ballads on, and I'm sure families had their own ballads, and that was how culture was passed down.
In fact, we call it corridos here in New Mexico music. That's a ballad. That would be just kind of the love song, whether it be, I mean, just like we were saying, those generational stories, whether the lost love of somebody that you once saw when you were just a teenager. And it's so funny when you finally get into the stories of it. It's always young love. Yeah. Always young love.
Well, that's rock and roll.
Yeah, it very much is. It just defines. And for me, I didn't realize it until I got into this band and we started doing this kind of music. Just the same connections that I've been playing through all the different music that I play, and how it just translates into New Mexico music. It may sound, for any other musicians out there, it may sound or seem like it's simpler, but there's just that culture and that heart that you're playing in it.
Well, simpler isn't always a bad thing.
Right.
I mean, you look at bluegrass, which is very Irish.
Exactly.
And country music, which is, they all have that same kind of simple beat, but what else do you need, really, if you're telling a story, or if you're just, out in the country and you have a couple instruments, but you want to play music and have a dance or something.
And that was the idea of a lot of these songs and a lot of the music that we play. Is just it was meant to be simple, because we were just telling these stories to our friends and family as a generation.
Creative expression.
Yeah. So
let's talk about your musical journey, because you didn't always play New Mexico music.
No.
Where did you start out?
So after kind of growing up, through middle school and high school, I played a lot of different instruments. As an adult, I got into music teaching at our local school of rock here, and had the opportunity to be the director there for some time. And that's really where I feel that I connect with a lot of the rock and roll music, especially with teaching the kids, and we would just get into a lot of music theory and stories and concerts and whatnot. And by chance, Diabolyk had their first album with Diabolyk. It was a rock album, so we do rock en Español, and they had played the state fair here. Maybe about 6 months later down the line, they had reached out to the sound engineer who was my roommate at the time and just wanted a jam session. I had a chance to just jam with them. And they were curious, and they said, hey, if you're ever in California, would you mind auditioning? Maybe 6 months later, the summer of 17, I was playing a show in LA, and I called them up and said, hey, I'm already in town. Should I just come over? What do you guys want to do? And I had the chance to audition with them, and later that year, we put out Benito Medley. It was our first track on this album.
So I've got two questions. First is, or however you want to answer them.
Yeah.
I want to know, like, when you say rock en Español, what does that mean? And then I also wanted you to elaborate on how you're the only you're the only person in the band that lives in New Mexico, but they are New Mexican.
Yes.
Just to clarify that for folks.
So Mimi Torres and Nathan Torres are both from northern Mexico. I don't want to misquote where they're from just because it's off the top of my head. But they both have a lot of rich history from northern New Mexico. When you have a chance to listen to her voice, you kind of hear that raspiness, that grittiness that kind of New Mexico has, but still very strong and very true. I'm sorry, you're gonna have to repeat the question.
And the other one was a rock en Español. What does that mean?
So again, going back to Nathan and Mimi, their sound, Nathan is very much the guitar. He's the guitarist. He's this guitar genius, to say the least, and he's very much inspired by Van Halen, Iron Maiden, a lot of like those early metal bands that came through. So he's developed a sound where it may have a lot of those kind of, and just kind of those riffs that we're so used to, but then Mimi's voice is completely in Spanish, and it's a mix of female Iron Maiden, I guess you could say. Her voice could really get to that pitch and those high notes.
Yeah. Well, we have such a big rock and roll and also metal scene here in New Mexico. Especially like Navajos love metal. Like they'll drive distances for metal. So I can't think of anything like more perfectly capturing the essence of New Mexico than like rock and roll and power chords. And then northern New Mexico music.
Yes.
And then we're going to listen to some, so bear with us. But first I have to pick his brain. I was hoping that maybe you could talk a little bit about just some of the classic New Mexico beats, so maybe show us.
Okay.
And to your knowledge, like where you know that they come from, or any like significance in history
Okay.
of these certain aspects and elements of New Mexico music that are seen
Okay.
here.
To not get too into crazy music theory, I don't want to go and teach a class right now, but on a lot of it was very simple chords. When you're first really learning guitar, you're learning on your 6th string. This is a 4-string, so this is a bass. But you're learning how to play these kind of open chords where you have some strings opened up. And so you learned your basics, and then it would just be that. It would be based off of just playing those basic chords. Because you're looking to tell your story, and it's not about all of this.
Yeah.
It's just, I want to get my story up. And then just to add a little bit of flair, which we got used to at least I always remember, it comes back to my personal connection at this point. It would be those basic kind of just these little walks to make it fun in between those chord changes.
So we talk a lot. I always hear about like the polka.
Yeah.
And then like I think as like your average American, when you think polka, you think like, I don't know,
and
Eastern Europe maybe or something.
Very German. Yes.
Yeah, German's Polish.
So it is inspired by that. As we come into the 1800s and as America's kind of becoming this very blended nation, pre-Civil War into post-Civil War, you have so many different cultures at that time trying to tell different stories, and eventually things just mix. We have these Spanish stories that start to come out in the music that's inspired through Germany, these little polkas that are, but because it was in southern Colorado, northern New Mexico a lot during that time, a lot just moving through there, we were inspired to that music as Hispanics, and at least Mexicans. That's where I come from, at least, and that's...
Well, and then Spain is such a mixed culture of its own.
Yes.
Southern Spain had, Moorish influences, Sephardic Jewish influences, where we get the flamenco from that, right? And Albuquerque has one of the only flamenco institutes in the world outside of, I think, Madrid.
Mm-hmm.
And then the farther up north you go in Spain, it starts getting totally different.
And that's very much how it is here.
Yes. Yeah, it's funny. Northern New Mexico has this rich culture, and then central New Mexico has this other rich culture. It's like everywhere we're all New Mexicans, but there's different nuances.
Yes.
That show up in the art.
It's always so amazing because each state has very much their own history. So then when you hear about the histories around the borders, around like the Texas-New Mexico border, where you can hear the difference between Tejano music and New Mexican music, because there's some blends in those areas. And then same thing when you get into the western borders of New Mexico, and you have a lot of those rich native inspirations that are coming from the tribes out there. Mm-hmm. It's a blend of all the stories, always.
That's what I love so much about American music.
Yes.
It is the best parts of everything that has happened in this country. There is a beauty that has come from it, and it's the music. And you couldn't have found this music anywhere else in the world, because the ingredients that have created, whether it's rock and roll or bluegrass or gospel or rancheros or any of it couldn't have happened anywhere else in the world.
Right. Because when you finally start to centralize all the stories of America, you find just this very niche, rich history here. It's so crazy. I'm sorry.
The way that it comes
out
out music is just continues to fascinate and make me so passionate. I love it. I love it. Talk a little bit about how. So when we think about Mexican music, remember we talked about this a few days ago. You go anywhere in the country and you can find Mexican music on the radio station. So cumbias and these things that we're familiar with. But New Mexican music's different.
Yes.
How?
It does. So a lot of Mexican music it's really hard to explain so much of the differences without just sitting and really listening to it.
Could you play a little to show it, like just let us hear the difference?
I think we're inspired by so much of it, but we have like Gitana. One of the songs that we have on our rock album has a lot of just more Latin feel. So those kind of dancey vibes. I feel that New Mexico music has a little bit more of a dance, and I'm not trying to say anything with Mexican music, but it just has a little bit more of our dance, our culture in it. And as a New Mexican, it
just
really,
sounds different.
There's just
maybe a better question would be to talk about some of the songs on the album and like where some of the influences came from that. Maybe that's a better question.
Okay. So Mimi Torres really writes a lot of our songs.
First of all, where can they get this fabulous album?
You guys can find it on Amazon.
Let's see if we can find a link, Holden.
And then if you guys want to physically find a copy here in Albuquerque, you guys can go to KNNW. They have physical copies there. If you don't, please just reach out to me and I can get them to you. So a lot of these were just a lot of those folk songs that we listened to, that I listened to growing up, songs that I didn't even know the names. It was just the songs that I remembered hearing. And when we started working on this, again, Mimi and Nathan work on a lot on what the goals are and what we're directed towards. It just became a very natural sounding thing to me. It just became Saturday morning to me right away, just on my bass guitar. So Manito Medley, the first track we put on here, it was our first. That was when we tried New Mexico music. We had been a rock and Español band before.
Oh, I gotcha.
And we put out one song. It picked up. Thank you, everybody who has listened and who continues to listen. It's been amazing. And decided we need to just pay homage. We need to do a whole album of this. And we got to meet a lot of great musicians through the New Mexico music. We've met Al Hurricane Jr. We've been able to have a chance to play with Sparks and Lorenzo Antonio. And thank you very much, everybody who's given us those opportunities.
Awesome. Can you do a shout out of everyone that's in the band?
Yes, Mimi Torres and Nathan Torres, and then Mike Leisure. He's been our drummer for a long time. Thank you very much for getting us where we're going. Mike has been a big portion of our band as well. Not all of us can be just musicians only, but he's one of those few that's been out there and doing that for 30 plus years. So he's put us under his wing through his connections, and
that's awesome.
Been able to help us out.
And you drive out there.
Yes.
It's crazy to me. But just so everyone knows, we just dropped a link in the comments there. On Amazon, go get a copy of this. You won't regret it. We will listen to some here in a little bit. Where were we? Oh, we were talking about the songs on the album and giving shout outs to everybody in the band.
So Nathan and Mimi and Michael will be playing on September 11th here at the State Fair in Albuquerque. So if you guys want to come out and see us, we'll be playing a full New Mexico music setup. Again, we play two different kinds of music. We play rock and Español. When I go out to California, that's typically what we're doing. We're playing a show that's a big rock show. And
here it's going to be back to the roots a bit more.
Yes, but we'll put some surprises in.
I hope so.
We'll
so
definitely.
What is the date for that?
September 11th. We should be on stage 5:30.
Our pre-anniversary.
Yeah, is it?
Yes, that's how we'll celebrate.
That'll be a great celebration.
Yay, that'll be fun. We have an epic state fair here in New Mexico, everyone. If you've never experienced it, you must come and
chili rellenos,
it's
corn.
fabulous.
I'm excited
to
play.
The Indian Village, which is actually very awesome.
Yes.
I think it might be the Native Village now. I don't know.
Have they changed it?
I hope so.
I hope they've changed it. I hope that in this age of where we're finally at least moving towards it.
So let's play a song.
Okay.
How do we want to do this? So, is there a way to listen to this? Is this online anywhere that we could pull up?
On Spotify it is. On Pandora it is.
But not YouTube.
I think the Manito Medley is on YouTube.
Manito Medley. I know that we pulled one. Hold on, what did we pull up there? Somebody's watching from Argentina. And they want you to speak Spanish.
So I wish. That is one thing that I don't do. I don't speak Spanish. I've always been the language of music. I love playing with so many different musicians. I even stumble through my words here.
Well, that's the thing too in New Mexico is that the same way that we lost our native languages, Spanish got lost as well in the whole assimilate to Western culture movement that happened in the mid-century. So unfortunately, like, I don't speak Spanish. My grandparents are Spanish. They spoke Spanish around the house, so they didn't want me to know. They had like candy hidden.
I feel that Mimi and Nathan do that to me sometimes, too. Especially Mimi.
So funny. Okay, what do we got, Hilton?
I have no idea how this is going to work.
Okay, this is new for us, everybody, so bear with us.
Play some live music at your...
There's an advertisement. So,
Okay, pass the advertisement. We're going to try to play on YouTube, but then have Lewis play along.
Okay.
Does that sound...
That sounds fine.
like it's going to work?
I can do that.
let me try and figure out how I'm going to do this. Hold on.
Let's, so what is it like having to drive out to California? And how does that work? Is that for shows or for rehearsals or both?
So when I started with the band, it was for everything. It really was for everything. I started... I was directing the School of Rock, and there was literally a point where we were putting a show up at Meow Wolf, where the students were playing a show there, but I had a scheduled rehearsal. There was a Saturday night. I had a scheduled rehearsal at 1 or 2 in the afternoon the next day
Oh my God.
in Barstow. So it would be get the kids set, get in the car, and go.
That's dedication. Oh my God.
It would be a good 9.5 hour, 10-hour drive, and ask them to drive to rehearsal so I can take a little nap in the car and just get right to it.
Dude, that's intense.
And that's how it is now. Anybody in the Las Vegas area, we're playing at the Dive Bar on August 21st there.
Which, Nevada?
Yes.
Las Vegas, Nevada. Hey, everybody out there in Nevada.
We'll be opening for Metalachi.
Cool.
If anybody's aware of that.
Yeah, run us through all of your upcoming gigs and then Holden, let us know when you're ready.
Okay. So those are the next 2 shows that we have going on. We just played a show in Apple Valley, which is a lot of fun.
Is that California? Apple
Yes,
Valley?
Apple Valley, California. At the Hilltop Lounge, we played a good hour show there for Corazon de Maná. They were a Maná cover band for anybody that listens to Mexican music. And then we've got Metalachi coming in Vegas on the 21st of August, and then the State Fair.
Cool.
So things are finally going in the right direction after...
Was it so hard last year? Did you go crazy?
So the band even... Our latest song, if you go on YouTube, I'm not in it because I couldn't make that trip.
Yeah.
It
Because
just...
what could you do?
Yeah, it
That's
wasn't
awful.
time to.
Oh, man, how stressful.
I'm going to need people in the chat to tell me if this is working.
Okay, guys.
Okay.
Lucy's watching. Lucy's our girl. Lucy, let us know if this is working.
A
mama is actually, she's back there. And when as soon as I hear that bass beat, I think about being about yay high and doing a little dance.
That's exactly where it always takes me.
Yo, my mama, our little street dances under the open sky on like the roadside.
It's perfect.
I know, oh my god, it's like in my DNA.
It really
feels like it's in your DNA.
It's hard to describe until you've experienced it, just listening to the music and just getting up and dancing, and it's just that natural.
And it's like, it's a heartbeat. Dun, 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 dun. Oh my god, I love it. I'm ready for a tequila shot too, V.
I'm right there with you.
Hey, you guys, drop your questions in. Let us know what kind of thoughts are coming up for you listening to all of this fascinating stuff. And then also, do you guys have a website? I'm sure you have a website.
We have a Facebook. We don't have a direct website, but you can find us on Facebook.
Okay.
You can find us on any of the streaming music, Pandora, Apple Music, Spotify, any of the ones that you're using. You can find us on YouTube as well.
Cool, yes. Gosh, I feel like I had some other questions. I got all swept away in the music. Well, what is it like, I guess? Because you're kind of at this turning point in your career where things are really starting to take off. Talk about like some of the recognition you've been getting.
So right before the pandemic had happened, in January of 2020, we had been invited to the New Mexico Español Music Association Awards.
Mm-hmm.
We were nominated a couple of times, but we had won for Female Vocalist of the Year. So again, Mimi, she is an amazing vocalist. Thank you so much. She is if you look up here, that's her.
That's fierce.
She is that attitude.
Fierce.
She very much carries that anytime she's on stage. And so that was one of our big moments. The year prior, I want to say, I think it was in 2018, we had done the Quince Grande. That's where they picked the top 15 New Mexico bands and just put up one big show at the casino. So we've done that. And now we're just really working on getting our next 2 albums. We're doing an answer to this. So we did Tales from Nuevo Mexico Volume 1. We'll be doing Tales from Nuevo Mexico Volume 2. And then we'll also be coming out with another rock album.
I love that, Tales from Nuevo Mexico. That's exactly what we were just saying, is it's storytelling.
Yes, it's exactly.
What kind of stories do we have on here?
Again, we're talking, let me look at the back here, because
Manito
the Manito medley, that's the one we came out with. And I'm going to look at my notes here, because that was a medley of songs.
San Juan del Rio, Niña del Perro Negro.
So the Manito medley was it was originally a mix of 5 songs. We cut it down for time for radio play, but that was Joritos Verdes, Puerta Negra, La Puntada, and Los Urales. And then Nathan also wanted me to say that Mimi is from Lovington, New Mexico.
Lovington!
So that's what we're getting.
Lovington. What is that next? Where is that?
Up north, from Farmington.
Okay, so northeast.
Yes.
Got it.
Yes.
Cool. Don't know if you already asked, but did anybody else in your family play instruments? Carol wants to know.
Nobody in my direct family. I grew up with cousins. We had a big family, a lot of cousins. So I did have a cousin growing up, Santiago, who would play guitar. He tried to get me to play drums with him. That wasn't happening at one point. But nobody direct. It was just always listening to the music that my parents had been playing around.
Yeah.
So I think that's really even what got me into bass. My parents were both into R&B and Stevie Wonder and the Isley Brothers, so eventually just got into it.
And so bass is your preferred, that's your instrument?
That bass and piano would be my two.
You can play other things, but awesome. Does anybody have questions back there? Our in-house audience members? No? Okay. Should we listen to another song? Do we have that ability?
Yeah.
Let's do, what do you want to play?
We can play some of our rock stuff.
Yeah.
I think Gitana or Hace Tiempo might be on YouTube. If you need any spellings, I can get that.
This is what I have.
Oh, next to Hobbs. That's we're being corrected.
Oh, by Hobbs.
By Hobbs.
Wait, what do I listen to there?
Hace Tiempo, that was one of the...
It's the one at the bottom. Go down.
Bottom right.
What's her face? The one with her face? That
There
one?
it is.
Yeah. That one.
All right.
I'm going to let that one play.
Yeah, just let it play. I wonder if there's a way for them to see that screen. that possible?
Give me 1 second.
All this fancy technology.
If you guys, again, so this was before I had joined the band on this one. This is our rock stuff. And they had already established this before I jumped on.
But you play these songs with them
Oh,
now.
yeah. Now you'll see me playing this all the time. I think this is Nathan.
Thanks for everyone's patience. We're
Thanks for having me out
charting
here
new
today.
territory with all this.
Yeah.
Of course. Thanks for coming on. I felt like we needed to have a little party moment. Chili season is happening, and feeling my New Mexico roots are just like all this time of year in New Mexico. Always just I fall in love with it anew every year. With the rains and the wildflowers.
Monsoon season is beautiful.
Yeah, chili.
We're ready to go.
All right, cool. So they can see the screen?
Yep.
Oh, very awesome. I love it.
So, Raymond Ulibarri, shout out to him. He was their original bassist. He's a good friend of mine now.
Cool.
Nathan is watching live and saying the volume is low on the song.
I can fix that.
That passion you can always.
I don't know, you guys probably heard us whispering back here, but oh my gosh, the intensity, the fire. I said she's like Selena's evil twin.
She has just this amazing passion, and we take a lot of inspiration, and she does, especially from Selena, but she has just amazing passion. I think that's really what, just having that chance to jam with him and then being able to audition. It was just like, this is the right
That's where it's
fit.
supposed to be. Very cool. Do we have any questions? If not, I think that probably is it. Unless there's anything you want to tell me that I forgot to ask, or
thank you very much, Mimi, Nathan. I'm sure you guys are seeing this. Mike, thanks for having us on. I want to give our thanks because Mike, our drummer, Mike is like I said, he's a drummer. He drums for Walter Trout and Edgar Winter before that, 2 big blues musicians. So.
Wow.
Thank you very much for getting us out there. Thank you for
of course.
having us on the show.
And let's drop that link on Amazon where you guys can order it. So support your local musicians, or even if he's not local to you, support your musicians, your homegrown American musicians. Because without music, what is the point of anything, right? We have to have our music. All right. So once again, this is Lewis Dorsey. He's the bass player from Diabolyk. If you are watching the show and we're no longer live, be sure to watch the whole thing. It's so awesome that we get to have these conversations, and we'll see you next time.